in May because now it's June and we're halfway through the year. We got a lot to get through. Let's go. Hi, it has been crazy 2 months. April, I had multiple children's birthdays, spring break, you know, lots going on. I also was preparing for my wedding, which was at the beginning of May. So then we got married at the beginning of May, and since then it has been insane. It has been lots of my husband traveling while I have our 4 children, and just craziness. It really has felt nonstop. But I'm trying to get back recentered because it's the beginning of June. It's the second half of the year, and I really want to get some of these books that have been on my TBR or are books that I am very interested in off my TBR. I want to go ahead and move those stories on. I want to catch up on series that I'm behind on that I wanted to read and then I missed the release, so I was like, oh, I'll read it later, and now the second release is coming out or whatever. I also want to finish some series. I have a lot of series that I'm in the middle of. I have the worst habit of being like, I really want to read the series, and reading books 1, maybe book 2, and then I kind of am like, okay, I'm going to come back to this world, so I'm not overindulging too quickly and getting tired of it. Then I move on to 17 other things and don't come back to that world. It's the ADHD in me. So I'm going to try to focus the second half of the year on those things. Also on reading some of the books that I have that I know are going to be super emotionally impactful on me. And I'm scared of them. That's why I haven't read them. So let's go over April and May. She's a big stack. She actually is not the biggest stack in terms of how much I normally read per month. Some I have on my Kindle as well, and because they were ARCs, and then also I just was so busy I didn't read quite as much as I normally do. So we're gonna go over these. They are not in order of when I read them. I'm so sorry. They are not. First up, let's talk about Nightshade by Autumn Woods. Okay, did I pre-order the Fairy Loot edition of the duology prior to reading this? Yes. Did I request the ARC for Daybreak before reading this? Yes, I did. And no regrets, no regrets. This book, not only did I read this book during a period of time, like a 4-day period, where this book was exactly what I needed to read during that time, but just in general, the story is immaculate and layered and dense while still reading as light. You're reading it and you're reading this story and it feels as though you're watching people's lives, and yet when you look back on all of these things, you're like, wow, what an impactful story, what an impactful way to talk about depression and self-harm. What an impactful way to talk about grief, an impactful way to talk about the feeling of betrayal, of trying to fight your way through a toxic family. I mean, of dealing with other people's mental health issues. This book is so dense and amazing. I gave myself a breather and have now started Daybreak, and I'm so just in love with the series. I'm so excited, or I guess the duology. I'm so excited for my special editions to come so that I can just stare at them. But I don't think I'll ever get rid of this paperback. I mean, that's how impactful this book was to me. And again, impactful at the perfect time that I needed it. Okay, next up is a series that is beloved and has come back around, had a resurgence, and that is The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen, and I have read other books by her. Now, I really like this story. I think that I read it at the wrong time, because as I was reading this, I kept switching back and forth to the audiobook, and I think that, how do I say this? I think that if I would have read this book at a different point, instead of forcing myself to read it, I would have enjoyed it more. So I'm going to come back to the series when I have I'm in the mood for this type of storyline, because the story was great. The story was well thought out. I thought that the characters were very intriguing. The world was cool. I love the plot, the basis. I mean, like, you know, you're looking at like essentially like trade wars, sort of. And I don't know. I think I just grabbed it at the wrong time when I wasn't really interested in that. I love her writing style. I think she's an amazing author, so we'll finish the series when I'm in the mood for it, and most likely would be one of those things where, like, I know that they go in pairs. Would be like, I get in the mood, I read book 2 to this. Wait until I'm in the mood for the story again, pick up both books at the same time, and do them in pairs like that. I think that would probably work the best for my brain. I am a mood reader. I'm sorry. If you saw some of these books you're going to see from one of my other YouTube videos, this was reading an Owl Crate book. So my book subscription boxes. This is Violet Thistlewait is Not a Villain Anymore. I was feeling super down and it was a rainy day and I was like, you know what, this book looks perfect for like a day binge. I did a mix of the audio and reading this copy, which is stunning. I loved this book. I loved that we were able to go into like a cozy, low stakes world and address kind of like some bigger issues. And so I think this book is fantastic. This is a book that I will save for myself, but also for my daughters. I think that they will appreciate this book at a later stage in life. Yeah. Okay, we already know, so I'm not going to go into anything long about this book. The Wicked Sea. The Wicked Sea by Jordan Stephanie Gray. Hello, this is one of my favorite books. Fantasy books, one of my favorite fantasy worlds, one of my favorite, or a couple of my favorite fantasy characters, the twists, the turns, the angst. Oh, I loved this book. I literally have to shut up because I'm so annoying when it comes to this book. I loved it. This book is a must. You have to pick this book up. In every edition I've seen of this book, this is the Fairy Loot. The deluxe edition is gorgeous. Every edition is fucking stunning. So you need to read this. Okay, if you've seen one of my other reading wrap-ups, you already know that I was obsessed with book 1, which was Direbound. Book 2, Furybound. This, I have the Fairy Loot edition coming, but this is the deluxe edition, and she is stunning. It's crazy when these deluxe editions come out and they're, you know, $32 and they're decently easy to get and they're just so gorgeous. She's also signed. She came with a pre-order cards, which is so they're so cute. It was such a beautiful edition. Now, I loved book 1. Okay, I mean, I was like fully immersed. That is a book series that like I would reread because I just loved being in that world with those characters. Book 2 really upped the ante for me. I felt like I was in book 1 and like, okay, I'm not gonna have any trauma. And then book 2 happened and I was like, I'm kind of think I'm getting a little too invested in these characters. Like someone should probably like pull me out, cut the cord, tell me I can't read book 3 when it comes out. Yeah, again, book 1 was like a really fun time and I think that's why I really loved it. Book 2 was like, I feel like not only am I having some trauma in book 2, but I feel like you're setting me up to like cry about these characters later in life. Like just be like washing dishes and crying about characters, and I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for that. Okay, next up. I have been putting this book off for forever. Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. I really wanted to read this edition because, are you kidding me? However, I did the stupid thing where I was like, this book is on my TBR and I have to read it, but I don't have time right now to read a physical book. You know, a physical fantasy this week, but so like, what do I have that I have an audiobook of? Well, I had Spotify credits or hours, and so I listened to Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. Is the audiobook good? Yes, I think the audiobook is really good. But there are certain books that I think the audiobook makes or breaks it for me, where I'm like, if I would have read this myself with my eyeballs, I probably wouldn't have liked it quite as much. The audiobook really made it. I think that this book, if I would have been able to be more immersed in it and read it myself at nighttime, during short breaks during the day, that kind of thing, I think I would have liked it more. I think I would have picked up on all the small details that made this book so amazing. And instead, I kept finding myself being like, oh, that's interesting. And then my brain just like kept moving on with this story without being able to like have those pauses in it, because I was so busy. I listened to the book in like 2 days, and it's a very long audiobook. So I am going to continue the series. I'm going to wait until I have time to physically read the book and feel more invested in the storyline, and where it's going, because the world is really cool. It's a super cool world. I just want to be able to absorb it, I guess. Rook and Rebel. I honestly read this so long ago that I feel like I reviewed it. But if I didn't, we're gonna go over it again, okay? Because that's how cute it was. I love them. Rook and Rebel. I adored this book. Okay. I loved the characters. I loved the plot. I loved the, like, oh, we're neither of us are going to give each other information, and then all of a sudden you're like, why would you not just tell me that? Kind of thing. Not miscommunication trope. It's not like that. It's much different than that. I don't want to spoil anything. I'm going too far. Anyways, Rook and Regan are so cute together, and I got the arc for book 2. So another book that I read. So yes, then I got the art cover copy of Ace and Ember, which is the book that actually got me into reading the series. I had seen a snippet of the character art on the author's page for this book. This book was somehow better, and I am obsessed with them. I love them. I don't think I've really read any motorcycle. I feel like people have bikes or whatever in books, but like this, when I read these two, I was like, okay, I see why there's like a whole subculture of, you know, people that are in love with bikes, and love people who ride bikes, and love with being on bikes while people drive them. I get it. I got it. Crazy, wild. If you want something that's just like fun and spicy, but also has a good plot, these two books are so good for that. Any time of the year too, like not seasonal at all. Okay, so I am not sure how a writing can feel nostalgic other than the fact that it was written during that period of time. That's like really the only way I can explain it. Because when I read like a classic, don't feel nostalgic. When I read, you know, even older books, say like books that are 10 years or were written like 10 years ago, doesn't feel nostalgic. I read last year Fallen, and I can't remember the author's name, but I know that that was a book that a lot of girls read like in their like middle and high years, and I think actually it would have been when I was in high school that it came out, and it felt nostalgic. Now, I read City of Bones by Cassandra Clare, and it felt nostalgic. I was reading it and I felt like I was in like middle school, high school. You know, this felt very like I was in 9th grade. I did not read these as a kid, so it doesn't make sense that I would have that feeling, I guess, other than the fact that it was written during that period of time. I love this story. It is so cool. Like, what a really cool world. And I need to continue the series. It's obviously it's like a world, and it's super expansive. I know that the author is coming out with one more book that kind of is in this universe. So that's really cool. I would like to catch up to it before that comes out. But there is a lot of books in this universe. So we're going to continue this. I was really happy to finally get to it. I pulled the trigger because I was like, I have the first book in the Mortal Instruments series, and I was like, oh, I really want to read this universe, but I only have this book, and I was trying to get them like as I was thinking about them, which tended to happen to me when I was at the library, and I found that book like in my library sale, and then I was like, oh, I don't know. Everybody online says that I have to read City of Bones first, not Clockwork Angel. And then I went to the library and they had it. So it was like very kismet. And yeah, I adored that book. Another arc I read by Alexandra Silva is Play for Keeps. If you like hockey romance, if you like a man who loves a woman, period, okay? He loves her no matter what she looks like. He loves her if she's, oh, it does have pregnancy in it. She loves her if she's pregnant, loves her when she's not pregnant, loves her when she's in emotional depths of, you know, motherhood. It loves her no matter what. And just, he loved her as her before any of this stuff in her life happened. You'll eat this up. You'll eat this up. Okay. This is a great book. And to be honest, I can't remember when it comes out. So this book is already out, and this is like the character art. You'll see, yeah, so it's reformed playboy, not his baby, acts of service, found family, forced proximity, he crawls for her, women in STEM. You'll eat it up. If you love those things, that's your book. Hey guys, I posted on TikTok that I needed a book that was going to be emotionally impactful, because I like to find books to read during important periods of my life. And sometimes it happens by happenstance, but you know, if I know that I'm having a big moment, like for instance, a year ago when I gave birth to my final baby, like what were the books that I was going to read while I was postpartum that felt like they were going to be adding to that period in my life. Like I said, got married at the beginning of May, and while I'm already like married, we've had our official ceremony, and to us it was always more about how much we loved each other and creating a family from that love, less so, which I know sounds horny, don't come for me, less so on having, you know, paying for this giant party. We eventually decided, hey, we're done having kids now. We've had all of our children we're gonna have. Let's have a really big fucking party to celebrate all that we've gone through, all that we've done, all that we've accomplished, and the human beings that we've made, and like, let's do it. So we had that in the beginning of May, and I decided to read Archer's Voice. It was a perfect choice. It was a perfect choice. The love that is in this book and the way that it is described, while not, you know, like obviously this isn't something that I've gone through. If you've read this book, you know, like this, I don't know if anyone's ever gone through exactly this, but definitely fewer people have gone through stories like this. But at the root of it, it feels to me like two people who have gone through a lot of things, and they're coming together, and they're kind of loving each other regardless of their fears, their traumas, their triggers, and they're working through those things together as a unit, while also giving each other space to work through those things that need to be worked through alone. And it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. I have the author annotated edition. I then annotated it myself as well. Yeah, I hope that my kids read this later in life, because I truly do think that it's while it's a unique story, it is such a good look at love, at loving someone and loving them truly, and it was a perfect book to read during that time period. I'm not going to stay on this book for long, because I feel like a lot of you are going to come for me. I read dark books. I think that dark romance, horror, all of these things, you know, books in general are so good if you have a fear or a trauma, or even if you're just like curious about something and wanting to experience that. Using literature to do those things and to work through those things in your brain it's what it's here for. It's why I never want to hear someone be like, oh, that's just smut. Like, it's not. It's not. Some of the things that are in these romance books are there for specific people and the things that they need, whether it's something that they need to work through, whether it's something that, you know, they're trying to get more experience and comfortability with, whatever. It's there for people, and there's a reason for it, and there's a need for it. And also, like, just don't shame what people read. It's weird to me. But I read, finally, I've had this book for so long. It's crazy. I read Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. The writing of this is stunning. Like, I'm not going to say you. I almost wanted to continue the series because of the writing. I just kept finding myself being like, I don't want to read this anymore. I don't want to read this anymore. And that has nothing to do with the book or the storyline. I think that has to do with my things that I've gone through and the way that I approach dealing with those things and the way that this book deals with those things. I think it's as simple as that. I think that a book cannot be for you, and this series isn't for me, and that's okay. Kind of along, not the same line, but darker and spicy is The Wolf and the Crown of Blood. This book I thought took a really cool take in a subtle way, not necessarily subtle, but like I felt like when we talked about her traumas and his need for control and the sexuality of that, it felt like it dipped your toe in and you were like starting to submerge your foot and you're like, okay, this is kind of wild, okay. And then it would like pull you back out, you know? Sometimes I think that it's just, you know, maybe it's just you need a little more like teasing of the storyline. I don't know how to explain it. I feel like I'm digging myself in a hole. Regardless, this book was awesome. This is by Elizabeth May. This is the Owlcrate edition. It's stunning. Yeah, I thought that this was a really cool Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I thought that the way that she used sexuality in that retelling was really interesting to me. Yeah, I also think that the world and the plot line of that world was really cool, and it felt like I was getting to experience some of the issues that I have with the real world, but in a fantasy setting, and seeing that like there are people in the real world where you know, like for instance, we are underneath a current administration, and like I feel like a lot of us who don't agree with that administration are fighting in our own ways and sometimes collectively against those issues that we have, and yet sometimes it feels like, why am I trying? And then I also think that like I view some of the conversations I have with other people in my life where they're like, well, I can only fight so much because I work for the government, or I'm a teacher and I have to be very careful about things I say, or whatever it may be. And it felt like it touched on some of those things, and it had that emotional feeling without, you know, really like shoving it in your face and saying it. Like they clearly had an issue with the world they were in and the power it be, and it took a really cool way to show you how, you know, fighting that system is important, and you know, having someone that you love that was kind of like supposed to be your enemy along the way, you know, can help you accomplish that. So this book was really cool. I think that it was deeper than what I've seen reviews for. I think it's just one of those books that sits with you over time, and as you're reading it, you're like, whoa, spicy, crazy, cool world, whatever. And then you sit with it afterwards and you're like, that book was actually like really layered. So I appreciate this. You and me, let's have a chat about this, okay? About this, because I've heard of this book series a million times on Book Talk, right? I know it's an OG Book Talk book series, but I am someone who tries my best, now that I am a reader again for the past like several years, to, if there's a TV show or a movie coming out that looks interesting to me, I try to pick it up in a book first. I want to tell you that I watched this TV series with my husband, and I was so annoying because there were parts of the TV series that I was like, no, I preferred the way that they did that in the book. And there was parts of it that I was like, oh, this is actually kind of a cool spin. You know, like, okay, that's kind of cool. Like, is it the way the book did it? No, but it's like still kind of cool. And that is the first 3 books of Off Campus. First of all, it was crazy because I went to go order these and the special editions, the collector's editions, whatever, were less expensive than the paperbacks. And I was like, okay, that's weird to me, but whatever. I'll take it. I loved all of them. I read the deal first because, and I kind of had planned on stopping there, to be honest. I read the deal and I was like, okay, it says that, you know, like each season is going to be based off a book. I'll read the deal before Off Campus comes out. Okay, fine. Like I don't need anything else after that. But the problem is that I read the deal and then I needed to know Logan's story. I needed to know what happened to him. I was so invested in these characters after the deal. I loved the deal. I loved the way that Elle Kennedy like approached a lot of these really sensitive topics. I really appreciated the way she approached them and I loved the deal, okay? Loved it. So I get the mistake. We get Logan and Grace, okay? Logan and Grace. I loved Logan so much. I adored Grace, but I loved Logan. I really related to his character. I related to his family dynamic. I adored Logan. And I thought to myself, wow, this is going to be my favorite couple of this series. I love them. They are so great. But I was just really curious at that point because by this point, Off Campus had come out and I was waiting for my husband to get back from a work trip so we could watch the TV show together. Because I'd mentioned watching it by myself and he was like, you're gonna watch that without me? It has hockey in it. Okay. So I'm like, in the meantime, why don't we read the score? I think you all know what I'm thinking. I don't even know why they're my favorite relationship because again, I relate to characters in other relationships better between, I think that I related a lot to Hannah and I think I related immensely to Logan, and Dean and Allie I don't really have like a connection to in like a super relatable way, and yet they were my favorite. By far my favorite book. By far my favorite book. They also, every single time the you know, watching the TV show, they were on the screen, I was like, we all were. Every single one of us was. We all were. I think that if there were women out there that were straight, they are now bi, at bare minimum. And I'm obsessed and I cannot wait for the next season. I will be rewatching Off Campus often. I am keeping these books forever. If I need a romance to dive into that is binge worthy and will leave you frothing at the mouth, it's this series. I'm obsessed. I cannot wait to continue the series. I'm waiting for the other ones to come out in their collector's edition, but I fear that I may not be able to wait long enough. I might have to just read them as an ebook in the meantime while I wait for the collector's edition. I cannot. Let me tell you what's in this collector's edition. The artwork is so cute. I love it. And each one is just absolutely fantastic, but I just have to tell you that them including the bathtub scene with Winston as an art piece. Did you see Winston? Dead. I was dead. I was like, this book's gonna go into my grave with me, okay? That is all of April and May. So many great reads wrapped up in that. I tried to be as quick as I could. Hopefully I didn't keep you too long. Now I have to try to regain a sense of myself and create a TBR for June.